Today's Wednesday, November 11th, 2015, and you're tuned into the Elevator Radio Show. Hey, everybody, happy Veterans Day. Have a great show for you today, so stay tuned. Here it comes.
You're tuned in to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly program dedicated to covering news and information on elevators, escalators, and moving walkways. Produced in the wee hours of the morning, a new show is uploaded every Wednesday, sometimes even before you get out of bed. Listen to some of the comments sent in from our audience.
Rob from New York writes, Tom, are you f***ing insane? You actually get up at 2 a.m. each Wednesday to put this show out? Man, you must love elevators. Tim from Illinois writes, I'm not sure why I listened, but ever since I tuned into the first show back in 2007, I've been addicted. Matt in Texas writes, I like your safety messages, Tom. It's important to remember them each and every day. And he also adds,
when am I going to win the monthly prize pack giveaway?
Ron from California sent this in. Despite your inability to pronounce words in the English language, I tune in each week and am glad that you offer this service to the industry. It's better than Google News alerts. Sarah, Tom, and look forward to it each week. I'm glad I sample resource for the industry, not only for North America, but worldwide.
Enjoy the show. And now, here's your sleep-deprived host.
Thank you, everybody. It is great to be here this Wednesday morning, and to all of you out there who are veterans of our great country, thank you for serving. Thank you for your commitment in ensuring that the freedoms that we live with today are just that, free. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say that enough. If you know somebody who's a veteran out there, please take a moment to call or thank them personally. You might work with them. You might they might be family members, but without them and without their commitment to ensuring our freedom and to the military, we wouldn't have what we had today. And it kind of scary. TV last night, and there was a promo for a new show where it kind of goes into what would have happened had Hitler won, and I forgot what the name of it is, but it looks pretty darn intriguing. And if you can imagine, if we were not able to have defeated Germany and Hitler back in World War II, what would have happened, what our world would be like today. And it's kind of a scary thing to think about, but at the same time, I don't know, man. You look at today's world and what's going on in Europe and the Middle East and even in the United States, and that in itself is terrifying because I think 20 years ago, if you would have said the violence that we see today, we would see it. I don't think any of us would believe that, especially on colleges and in campus settings. So anyway. But I digress, and again, thank you, Veterans Day. The only question or the only issue I have with the day itself is I think it should be a day that veterans get off, not just everybody. And, I do think that, but I guess perhaps that's really the best way of honoring those who have served. So in any case, I got a good show for you today. Shouldn't be very, very long. A couple of really serious stories to report on that I encourage you to share with your colleagues, your friends, or anybody you possibly can to try to prevent these kinds of accidents from occurring. And still busy on the home front, busy in the workspace front. I'm really looking forward to Thanksgiving. Next week we'll have another show, and then the weekend after that, probably not. But ultimately, I'm hoping that today might be a little bit easier day where I can catch up on some paperwork, get my desk cleared off a little bit. But typically what we find is that's not really the case. Those that are working in the industry, either on holiday pay or whatever, are typically pretty busy dealing with issues with equipment. So we'll see what happens today. But if you do have the day off, hopefully you enjoy it. And just again, remember what the day is all about. And if you're able to, take a moment to thank those that have served our country. I'm going to play at the end of the program a pretty unique speech that was recorded by, I don't know who recorded it by, but it was John F. Kennedy, who is being recorded, or who was recorded back in 1961. I think it's kind of eerie to listen to it, and not only listen to it, but kind of put it in perspective of where we are in 2015, and that we still have worldwide threats that threaten our freedom and our security. And in an ideal world, it'd be nice not to have wars. It would be nice not to have to worry about terrorists. But it's just the world we live in, and I fear to think or imagine what our children's children are going to really be facing, and how much that might change. I would like to imagine that in a perfect world, the world gets a little bit better, a little bit nicer, and but only time will tell. So it's important. So don't forget what Veterans Day is all about, and do your part to to honor those and thank those that have served. All right, we'll get up into the news next, and we should have you out of here in no time.
Let this week's news stories give you a lift on what's happening in the vertical transportation arena. Each news segment is organically dug and fresh with news stories of the week. Got lift?
One quick thank you before I get into the news. Thank you to Kali Elevator for sending over two $25 gift Starbucks cards. We greatly appreciate that. That in addition to the code data plate Starbucks cards that were donated by John a while ago that go into each one of the prize pack giveaways. Anybody who likes Starbucks, anybody who likes it a lot, you're going to get a nice, a nice little package. Whoever wins the prize pack giveaway. Again, remember how to win that. You have to go over to elevatorradioshow.com. Go down to the bottom of the footer and put your email address in, and that is where you will be eligible to win. We may even try to see if we can get the Facebook, those that follow us on Facebook, linked into that as well. So if you're on Facebook, you want to join or follow the page, I encourage you to do so. We do post stuff during the week, doing just a short while ago. So, check that out. And there's some link somewhere on the website. Okay, first news article of the program. Real serious one. And this has happened before. I wish it never happened, but apparently a 73-year-old volunteer worker dies after falling down an elevator shaft. This breaking from WYFF Channel4.com news in South Carolina. Apparently, the victim, Patricia Gilmore, 73 of York Drive in Gaffney, said that she was a volunteer and sold items from her at the Black Horse Antiques on Frederick Street. Gilmore was on either the main or first floor of the two-story building. She told somebody she was going to the second floor when she, and apparently used, as the set of doors opened to the freight elevator, she stepped forward. The elevator was not there, and she fell into the basement. This is awful. Just awful. And I am certain, and I speak with experience, okay? And let me just digress or back up a moment here. We had a project, we had a contractor come in or drop off an interlock or a mechanical electrical lock device last Friday. The thing was so rusted up that there was no chance it was ever going to run. I guarantee that it ran that way, or it has not been working for at least the last 10, 15 years based on the pattern numbers and just the design. And to imagine that it took, an inspector to lock tag out that device is just terrible because, I can't imagine how many of you out there know of elevators that are unsafe, or know of elevators that shouldn't be running or maintain them or whatever. The reality is you just can't turn your head. You need to document. You need to let the elevator owner or the lift owner know that they need to do something, or somebody's going to die. So there's no excuse to it. Really isn't. So this is a terrible tragedy. I don't know if we'll find anything more out. South Carolina, I do not believe. I don't know what code they're under. I don't want to say they're not proactive, but I know North Carolina is pretty proactive in adopting the latest and greatest codes. I'm not 100% sure if South Carolina is, so I don't want to share out of context. But if anybody has information on that, let me know. But again, more importantly, is make sure that you are, if you're aware of elevators on your, under your, you're maintaining, that you, and they're not safe, let somebody know, document it, tag it out, shut it down, please. That's going to avoid things like this from happening. Hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about that down the road. Okay, next article, San Diego Union Tribune. This really doesn't have anything to do with elevators other than the fact that it does link a little bit on how the space elevator was, going to be, or hopefully will be someday in the near future. I don't know how near that's going to be, an alternative to less expensive space travel. This article talking about a glider that has been developed to shoot to a newer, higher altitude in the stratosphere, which is about 90,000 feet. We'll see if they can do that. But I'm not quite sure whether or not, I'm not sure that's gonna, work. But I'm not a aviation person by any means. So, anyway, link is in the show notes if you want to check that out. Okay, this is the next article. This, we all take elevators and escalators for granted here in the United States because we've grown up with them pretty much. I mean, they've been around for a long time. But in Mumbai, some highs, a few lows on the new Borivali escalator as they inaugurated it. This is a new escalator at the Borivali station. What I like about this article, now this is an escalator that most people have never, been on before or never seen. So to them, they don't quite may not quite understand how it works or whatever. But what's nice is that somebody who was there, a Vasi businessman who travels to Borivali daily, says the commuters need to be cautious while using the escalator. The railway should appoint guards to man the escalator for some time at least, cautioning commuters not to accidentally press the stop buttons, take care of children, and help the aged, and not wear loose, fitting clothing. That's another one. But I'm glad the article took this step rather than just saying, "Hey, it's a brand new device. Look at how exciting it is." Blah blah blah. Because those safety steps, especially in a country or a location where they're not used to seeing something like this, education is definitely key. So, okay, here's a photograph you don't see every day. I always like to see photos of elevator shafts that actually are being built before the buildings go up. I love those. You know what I'm talking about? Where you're driving to the road, all of a sudden you see this shaft sticking out of the ground. You're like, hey, what's that? Oh, it's an elevator shaft. I love those photos. Here's one I don't love so much. This one is a rubble that remains of St. Pete's downtown pier building. I'm not sure why they saved it or what they're saving it for, but there's actually two there. So, to complement the taking down of the elevator shaft, next article is actually one of an elevator, a new elevator for a church at St. Patrick's in Connecticut. I'm not going to sign up for this, no thanks. So with the taking down also happens the building up or installing. So St. Patrick's Church raised about $800,000 to install a church for their parish, which a lot of money to raise, and it's nice to see churches are, some of the churches out there are doing quite well. I know it's not been an easy for many of them out there. Okay, next video. Sorry about that. Next video shows a working model of the ThyssenKrupp magnetic system, the magnet elevator prototype. So check it out. It's cool to see how this thing is designed and how it runs. Lots of sensors and switches. I believe it is a third scale of what it's going to look like. So check it out. Kind of explains and shows in greater depth what they're designing. So which is kind of pretty cool. I would love to see something like this, in person, to see exactly how technology and stuff like this is going to make a difference in building in new building construction, and how those are accessed. Hello. So anyway, okay, construction begins on new Long Island Railroad access point at Grand Central Terminal Station in New York. Channel 2 News reporting, and if you can hear that rumbling in the background, that is a truck that has just started its engine. And if you don't hear it, don't worry about it. Anyway, I always like these groundbreaking ceremonies here where they've got a bunch of bigwigs and they're either like shoveling something or they've got a pick. And I mean, I guess it's nice to see, but it seems a little silly. You can watch the video in the post, this is going to hopefully make the station a little bit more accessible. Link is in the show notes if you want to read more about it. Typically what we found, at least working on projects like this, is that they're expensive. And sometimes what's specified on them literally is overkill for what should be installed, if that makes sense. Anybody wants to talk to me about that in person, I'd be happy to. And inventing. Okay, Entrepreneur has a really good article in marketing, the 3-part elevator pitch formula you need to know. And I think this is great. For the longest time, when people would come up to me and ask me what I do, I just did not know what to say, you know? And over the explaining what I do, and so I've really simplified it to when I meet somebody and they say, hey, what do you do for a living? I just tell them, I make elevator parts. It's nice and easy. And from that point, they're like, really? You know, you kind of, the imagination kind of runs wild. You're thinking, well, does he do it in his garage? Does he, I don't know, what does he do? I mean, so, you know, and then they kind of like lead into the rest of the stuff. So I think simple is better, but ultimately, if you say you're an accountant or whatever, or, you know, most of those descriptions are so like, you know, canned. You know, try to make it interesting in terms of what you tell people, what you do for a living. Be pretty creative with that. So check that out. Okay, 16 children were injured after stampede down escalator, another accident occurring in China. This one a little different, and apparently 16 primary school children were injured during a stampede involving an escalator when they visited a museum in the capital city, Nanjing. And apparently a class of 40 students were headed up the escalator to the museum yesterday when a partially closed door stopped their progress. What? Oh my goodness. How does that happen? So apparently that caused one to fall backwards and the rest of the people to basically stampede. I don't understand. Maybe there's a translation issue here. Lots of graphic photos, which viewer discretion is advised, although it's mainly just lacerations. So, man, kind of crazy. I don't see any door there at all, so I'm not quite sure where that door came from. So, okay, the Chicago Elevator Association has the holiday party date set for December 2nd, 2015. It's going to be held at the Clubhouse in Oak Brook. Well, it's a great location. They are going to have music. They are going to have prizes, drinks, food, all sorts of stuff. So RSVP to that if you are able, if you're a member. 1 member per company is for free. Additional member companies per person are $65 and non-members are $95. So pretty cool. And I encourage you to sign up for that or get your RSVPs in. Okay, man says he was stuck in an elevator. I don't know why necessarily this news channel picked this article up, because ultimately, if you live in a condo, there's no reason in hell that you should have to go to the news to resolve an elevator issue. Now, granted, this poor guy, not I mean poor guy, but this guy is requires an elevator because he's in a wheelchair, but he should not have to get justice or some kind of information by going to channel WTHR.com. And that's the unfortunate part. The elevator was shut down because it did not have its inspection certificate and some tests done. So, it's one of those things where it's unfortunate that it got to, and it's got information in it too. Yeah. Okay. So somebody else lives in this building. I also live in the building. We do have a management company. We didn't know the elevator was out of compliance until the first time it was shut down. We paid the elevator company over $7,000 to replace the board that would keep us in compliance around October 26th or 27th. The elevator company neglected to contact Homeland Security to let them know that the work had been completed. That is why they shut down again on Friday. Anyway, interesting commentary on this, and I think, I swear, I think if I am ever really old or get to the point where I can't walk, I'm going to move into a ranch. I'm going to get into something that I don't have to worry about a basement, a second floor, or anything. Get in and out nice and easy. Okay, Ad Roller wraps first escalator handrail for Kmart in the UK. I forgot about Kmart. I forgot they're still in business. Maybe they're doing better in the UK than they are in the United States. It seems like anything Sears touches just turns to crap. Sorry, I don't mean to be so blunt about it, but anyway, they are doing that. It would be nice to see more safety messages on this instead of ad rollers. And I believe that I don't know what the UK codes are, but I believe that the new code in the United States, I could be wrong, don't quote me on this. Again, this is not 100% true. That I think that The information on the handrails may be okay here in the 13. Do not quote me on that. Okay, next article. ThyssenKrupp to achieve elevator profit targets. Look at the article title on this. Before 2020. Man, I can't imagine like predicting that far out that a deadline of exceeding profit goals. But I guess at the same time, if you don't have goals, how are you going to know if you don't get there, right? It's actually a good goal to have, right? Any goal for that matter. Gives you kind of gives you a destination. And then you kind of have to come up, obviously, with a plan to get there. So, 2020 deadline of reaching profit goals for elevator unit German steelmakers relying on its to turn its fortunes around. Company based in western city of Essen expects to hit a €1 billion adjusted earnings before interest and tax target before it achieves its desired profit margin for the unit. Wow, that's a mouthful. So anyway, that's I would think that's good. That should make stocks go up a little bit. Stock prices go up. So, but I was like, 2020, man. It's like, that's a long time away. 5 years. Anyway, interesting. Okay, Otis affirms commitments to China's growth and safety. I think this is a good article coming from ChinaDaily.com.cn. In light of the recent accidents that have occurred. Otis Elevator, world-leading manufacturer, reiterated its commitment to China. The company's global president has pledged to increase investment in innovation and service in China, support continuing demand for transportation infrastructure and high-rise buildings, brought about accelerating urbanization. Now, I believe China at this time has their own escalator code, but they are in the process of looking to either create their own, use A17.1, B44, or, as I mentioned prior, combination of both into their own. So we'll see what they do. I have a feeling they're going to have their own code at some point. To be honest with you, I kind of cringe at the thought of them adopting the A17, and I don't think I think they're too proud of a country to do that. But other places in the world that have not, other places in the world that have not adopted a code or don't have a code, they typically do not go with the EN81. Not the B44, I'm sorry. They typically go with A17.1, at least in the Middle East and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. But the reasoning behind my feeling on that is if China adopts A17.1, which you'll see, and I could be totally wrong on this, but what you're going to see is a flood of China products into the United States marketplace if it is certified for A17. 0.1 or 0.3 or whatever code year it is. So, which honestly I don't care, because at the end of the day it really should be about longevity, and I think people are going to get tired of equipment that is not reliable. So anyway. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Okay, Elevator World Unplugged. Caleb's got a cool video here. It shows the coolest elevator you've ever seen. I wonder if we'll ever see the day, and this is not code compliant, obviously, where you have an interface that makes elevators a little bit more exciting, where you've got like this panel, and this is what the video is showing. You press a button that has like disco mode, and then it changes the lighting system in the elevator cab. There's a relaxing, a psychedelic. So I think it's pretty cool. I think this is like a psychological experiment, more than anything else. But it's still pretty interesting, to say the least. So yeah, I don't think this is definitely not code compliant by any means, but still kind of interesting. Kind of gives me a headache and nauseous looking at it. Okay, next news article, and I think it's the last one of the show. Girl's hand crushed in elevator accident. First, I thought this was here in the United States, but it's not. This is coming from Dubai News Express. We actually covered this article, about 22 months ago. But here is the little girl with her doctor. And, I don't know if I said escalator or elevator. I think I meant elevator. Girl's hand crushed in elevator accident. And the most important part of this article, a little tiny girl, is the information that the safety tips at the bottom. And this is really the walk away from this, because these are all good safety, tips. And if we don't share them, if we don't support the efforts of the Elevator Escalator Safety Foundation, we're just not going to have, we're going to see more and more accidents like this. So, yeah, terrible. This little girl is going to, have issues with her hand for the rest of her life. And she's so tiny, so tiny. So anyway, yeah, promote safety whenever you can. It's not a given. It's not a. What am I trying to say? It's not a given automatic, know-how for most people. So, all right, that's going to do it for the show, everybody. I'm going to leave you with the speech that was recorded by the speech of John F. Kennedy back in 1961 regarding Veterans Day. So you enjoyed. Again, thank a veteran wherever you can find one, and we'll be back next Wednesday for another show number 412. Take care, everybody. Be safe, and we will talk to you next week.
Today we are here to celebrate and to honor and to commemorate the dead and the living. The young men who in every war since this country began have given testimony to their loyalty to their country and their own great courage. I do not believe that any nation in the history of the world has buried its soldiers further from its native soil than we Americans, or buried them closer to the towns in which they grew up. We celebrate this Veterans Day for a very few minutes, a few seconds of silence, and then this country's life goes on. But I think it most appropriate that we recall on this occasion and on every other moment when we are faced with great responsibilities, the contribution and the sacrifice which so many men and their families have made in order to permit this country to now occupy its present position of responsibility and freedom, and in order to permit us to gather here together. Bruce Catton, after totaling the casualties which took place in the Battle of Antietam, not so very far from this cemetery, when he looked at statistics which showed that in the short space of a few minutes, whole regiments lost 50 to 75% of their numbers, then wrote that life perhaps isn't the most precious gift of all, that men died for the possession of a few feet of a cornfield or a rocky hill, or for almost nothing at all. But in a very larger sense, they died that this country might permit it to go on, and that it might permit it to be fulfilled, the great hopes of its founders. In a world tormented by tension and the possibilities of conflict, we meet in a quiet commemoration of an historic day of peace. In an age that threatens the survival of freedom, we join together to honor those who made our freedom possible.
From WBUR Boston and NPR, I'm Tom Ashbrook, and this is On Point, Real Life, Real Death. Well,